how did you become a non-feminist woman?
So I was never really a feminist woman. I just didn't pay attention to it through college and high school. And I graduated high school in 1994. And so it hadn't really infiltrated deeply into like the public zeitgeist, I guess, at that point where I lived in New Jersey. Um, and then I got on Facebook. I do remember thinking before I ever engaged with any feminists online that like I just didn't want to be considered as a woman. I just wanted to be thought of as like a person. I felt it was a little condescending to just keep focusing on me being a woman. And I also didn't have, I had really great relationships with men. I really liked men. I enjoyed spending time with them and didn't experience a lot of the negative, stuff that happens with men that drive some women towards feminism. And then I got online and saw some feminist content, thought it was a little silly. And I remember posting one day, I consider myself to be whatever the male version of a feminist is. I care about men's problems and men's issues. And the first comment on the post was from a feminist saying men's issues are bullshit with several exclamation points. And I was like, what? And then there was all this anger coming at me immediately from people. I had not found the men's movement at this point. I did not know that it like was a thing, but I was shocked at how negative the reactions were to me just saying I want to care about men, not even saying anything negative about women. And that drove me to look into men's rights, and that drove me to find the men's movement. And then I just became very invested in watching YouTube videos and reading content and articles and deconstruct. I got into Karen Strawn and like watching her videos, and it just took off. And I was just like, I hate feminism. This is terrible. So that's kind of the general idea of where it came from.
Okay. Do you believe that in the West we live in a patriarchy, or how do you view that? Do we live in a patriarchy?
No, I believe that we live in a system that was created by the strongest among us at a time before things like penicillin and things like birth control, where men and women had certain roles based on biological limitations, based on technological limitations. And we are kind of painfully, slowly transitioning now away from the need, since everything is so much safer and there's so much more technology, we're kind of awkwardly transitioning away from women needing men as much as they used to into a realm of women gaining more independence financially and legally, etc. But it was never a oppressor versus oppressee. It was never a man's world that women had no rights in. I don't agree with patriarchy theory on that level, no.
Okay. What is your view on traditional gender roles within society?
I feel like they're fine for anybody who wants to pursue them. I also feel like, because I'm pro, anybody identifying as whatever gender they want, use whatever pronouns you want. I think gender roles are pretty strict to start with, but also that there is a biological underlay with some of these roles where we can biologically have children and men cannot. And so I feel like human society tends to form into these roles naturally without being pushed into them, but there is also a structure that enforces those roles. And so it's an interplay between those two forces in my mind.
Okay, between culture and nature. Yeah, that makes sense. So some of it comes from just tradition and some of it comes from maybe nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tease apart which is which.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe, and a lot of the times feminists say it doesn't come from nature. And I can understand that. Maybe not a lot of it comes from nature. Maybe even it's not like a lot, but yeah, it's complicated for sure. Yeah. But yes. I would agree that most of it comes from culture and tradition. Anything that we have today that would be considered gender roles. So it's not necessary. And also, in terms of nature, it would be very diverse. because nature
That's
is,
true.
is such, it exists so much on a spectrum. So even if it comes from nature, it would never be applied to all women or all men. It would be totally on a spectrum, which is also
You're right.
fascinating. And yeah, very nice.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. That it's very strictly enforced, which I don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
It causes a lot of...
Sometimes, yeah, it has been strictly enforced in the past, and sometimes people take traditional gender roles to be very strict, but it can also be just viewed as, well, it's a guide, but it's not going to work in every situation. It depends on, with your specific situation, you're going to, have to see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's not often, but I've also met in feminist circles to people who want to take it to the opposite extreme and say, we don't want any of these traditional roles. We have to. I have met people who have said, women should not be allowed to stay at home to break out of this, and so on, or so yeah, it's a complicated thing. Okay, what is your view on MRAs?
Mostly positive.
Mm-hmm.
I am annoyed by the parts of the men's rights movement that mirror the parts of like the extreme feminist side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So this MRA spaces can get really negative and really sarcastic and really cruel sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
as a backlash to the stuff that they've experienced. And it's frustrating that backlash is Nazism and like male supremacy, whereas the feminist backlash, which can be just as bad, if not way worse, is just understandable. But I don't seen as understandable.
Right.
But I don't.
Yes, that is so true. Yeah. That is an extremely important point, because actually, in my opinion, they are mirrors of each other in that feminists are totally crazy. They hate men. They use their personal experiences to just say that all men are horrible, and they create all sorts of weird theories where they don't like men. And MRAs in the extreme do the exact same thing, I think. But the funny thing is that society looks at feminists doing it and it's like, oh, cute, cuddly, blah, blah, blah. It's just woman. Cute, cuddly. She's just angry. They sort of make fun of it and it's like a joke and it's just like... And then when men do it, it's like, what? This is serious. This is serious. We have to look at this. It becomes something serious. So it's also just like a reflection of like how we fear men, but we don't fear women. So it's like women can say whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. And everybody will just be like, cute, cuddly, she's just angry. But men, if they get angry, no, Yeah.
It's immediately a danger. It's violence. It's aggression. It's misogyny.
It's scary.
But Andrea Dworkin saying she wants to see a man beat to a pulp with a high heel shoe shoved in his mouth like an apple in the mouth of a pig. And that is on Facebook in a feminist group, and the person posting it says, "Amen."
Yeah.
And it's sexist to not be afraid of women.
Yeah.
And it's also sexist to assume that men are violent when they're angry. And so both sides of those is kind of screwed, in my opinion. You made a very good point, though, yes.
What do you think about this bear versus man thing that recently happened?
I just hate it. I'm just tired of... It's just blatant misandric sexism just being spread about online constantly. It's just like, would you rather meet a man or a wild, dangerous animal in the forest? I'd rather meet a wild, dangerous animal, because men are bad people.
Right, because we need to teach men not to rape, because men are racist, but are rapists. But nothing is wrong with saying that. It's like, how is that not strange? How is it not strange that it is not wrong to say we need to teach men not to rape? It's crazy.
Yeah, how is that? If you replace men with black men, it would be horrifying.
Right. We need to teach black people not to steal. We need to teach black people not to steal. Like, it's really strange. But for them, it's just like,
There's no point to it. It's just another way to trash men. It's just, and then the defense for it is always, we're so scared. We've had so many bad experiences. You can't blame us for slandering an entire gender in public repeatedly because XYZ.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of it.
Yeah. Have you seen the film Baby Reindeer?
I haven't. Everybody's telling me to watch it.
Okay.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I hope you get to see it. What is your thoughts on gynocentrism? Gynocentrism.
Like,
you know what it is, or
yes, yeah, and I think that it's absolutely a thing, and that somebody posted a really good article from somewhere recently in my men's group, and it was about how we highlight female victimhood and female accomplishment, but then when it comes to male accomplishment, it's people that accomplished it, it's workers, it's not men. And then when we talk about male victimization, it's also people. So it goes from women are being disadvantaged and women are accomplishing things to people are accomplishing things and people are being disadvantaged if it's on the men's side. And so we all focus on women as the universal victims of anything bad that happens. And we also focus on them as the universal heroes when anything good gets done in a not even all female group. So it just is, yes, the gynocentrism is definitely a thing, and it happens a lot in our culture. In certain places, I'm sure.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on intersectionality?
I see the point in talking about intersectionality. I see the point in a lot of left-wing ideas, a lot of like woke social justice ideas. I just feel that the way that they adhere to them like a religion is where it starts to go south.
Right.
So yes, it is harder to have a disability and be transgender. But you can be transgender and very successful. And not be disadvantaged just because of this intersection of characteristics. I feel like it boils people down to their race and their gender more than we need to be doing that. And it also disallows for help for white cis men, who might be struggling with homelessness or drug addiction or domestic violence. And so it takes attention away from that in a huge way. And yeah, it's a religion.
Right.
It's almost like a magic.
I think the idea of intersectionality is important and good, and it makes sense, and I kind of agree with it if you talk about it as an idea. But when you look to apply this to normal people and every person, and the way in which feminists carry about on the internet and in groups, and they try to apply it to people, this is a problem, because that's not how I think the idea was meant to be used. I think you can say on a whole, this group of people face certain disadvantages and this is real. But you can also say that everyone is an individual. We don't judge people. And we don't assign privilege or disadvantages to individuals without first knowing them or being in a relationship with the person well enough to know enough about them to say whether or not they are privileged or not. We can say that this group faces this problem more often, this group feels, but just please don't do it to individuals and don't use it, you don't use it against people. It's also really cruel to use it against people because
you're valid as your
exactly, and you are never responsible for your group. All of these groups are by chance. The groups that I belong to, I belong to these groups by chance. I am not responsible for the actions of my group. So, to use it against people in a negative way, to say you have privilege, this is also something that is just it is hurtful and it's not nice. It doesn't make sense. It's just, mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All of that.
What is your view on being called a pick-me girl for your views?
I think it's the same as any belittling tactic that political sides use. Is just there's no reason why you would just love men as a gender because you love humans and you see men as humans. There has to be some less altruistic, less positive reason that you're doing this. It has to be some selfish, toxic reason that you're supporting men, and that is, oh, I'm a pick-me girl. I'm, sucking up in order to get attention from men. And it's just depressing. It's just sad that people see this, but it's not surprising.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the worst you got, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
What do you want to share, to YouTube about your views on feminism? How would you just describe your views, and what would be something you just want to share with everyone?
I would love it if we could stop treating feminism as synonymous with goodness and rightness. I would love it if we could just see it as a political movement that has flaws and causes problems and espouses problematic theories, and not see it as a monolith that represents every woman on the face of the planet, so that when I say I'm anti-feminism, you don't assume I'm anti-woman. You don't assume I'm pro-genital mutilation. You don't assume that I'm pro-rape. It's so simple-minded and anti-intellectual to make feminism synonymous with being good or good for women, because it's not what's the best for women, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so it's very frustrating to me that the whole entire world now sees feminism as this force for goodness. And I'm like, no, it's a flawed, complex, deeply problematic political theory that's been going on for decades, just like any political theory, and it should be deconstructed.
Okay. Well, thanks for interviewing with us. That's the end of the interview, but we can still talk. Oh. Yeah, so, this sexual assault thing, this is the Man vs. Bear, they brought it in, Baby Reindeer is another really good film. I hope you get to see it. That explores this stuff, and it just shows that, we cannot gender any of these issues, especially because of diversity. Because humans exist along a spectrum, none of the issues can be gendered. Not the issues that face men or the issues that face women. Because they're going to be women who face the same issues that men face. And they're going to be men who face the same issues that women face. And there's no way for us to tell who or how many or whatever. Because if we gender things as they were in the past, then you create personalities and things that you put onto people that may stop them from being able to express things because they believe they belong to this gender, and that doesn't happen to them.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same thing with the privilege discussion. Is if you decide somebody is privileged, they can't have pain, they can't have problems, they can't get attention. There's nothing you can do for them because they're fine. And yes, gendering things is pointless. Men get raped, men experience sexual assault, men experience sexual harassment, women experience some of the stuff that men experience, and so we just have to. What's the point? The point is you can't be a victim, and you can't get money for your organization if everybody suffers. You have to make women special.
The point in a sense with feminism is that they use this gynocentrism to fund. To get their movement going. They're using female victimization. And female victimization may be something that really comes from nature, that is embedded in us, that was there because women were actually victims, historically speaking. I'm talking thousands of years ago. Women were victims of nature. And so we feel more sorry for women often. And feminism has been able to use that, and they continue to use it. And I don't even know what is their goal. I don't even know what they want. What are they using this for? What is the end goal? I am seeing things on feminist pages now, which is last night I saw things and I was like, oh my God, did feminism go full circle? Because I saw on one of these feminist pages, I think it's called She Writes or something like this, things where these women are complaining that men don't provide income. In a sense, the post was like, what are men good for nowadays, women do all this, and they don't do anything. If a man isn't providing income, then what is he there for?
Which is the whole point.
Which is like what? like what? You came from a traditional society where men were like providing. You said don't provide as a feminist, and now you've come full circle to say if men don't provide, they have no value.
Yes.
You know, it's like, are you insane?
There's the dichotomy of the innocent woman who's always afraid of like the predacious man, and then there's all these very, very like long list of behaviors the man has to engage in order to make the woman feel safe. Don't walk behind me at night. Don't look me directly in the eyes on a subway. Don't sit next to me if you don't have to. But then we're strong, empowered, amazing women.
Exactly. We are independent, we are independent, but it's your fault that we have to choose this bear. It's your fault.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. If you don't change your behavior, we're gonna have to choose the bear. Think of us. You know?
Yes. All of it is very contradictory.
It's leveraging
victimization, yeah.
And the thing is, feminists realize that they were leveraging victimization. That's the best thing they could do as women, to leverage victimization. And then they decided, who else is a victim? Oh, those black people have victims. Oh, those gay people have victims. Oh, you know?
Yes. So the umbrella that feminism covers is like, so vast.
Let's just take all the victims and then, you know, put them together with the woman, and they won't even notice. You know?
Yeah.
Because women... Superpower victim group. And women have natural victim status. That is instinct embedded in humans to see women as victims. It doesn't matter what the reality of today is, which is mostly that we are not in the situation of victimhood that we were historically speaking. We can choose not to have children. A lot of us are not having children. We're having far less children. And of course, hospitals, everything is much safer than it was in the past. So we don't suffer the same level of victimization that our biology and psychology is prepared for. Granted, of course, women are still near to children, and if you want society to continue, you have to allow women to do that, and so on. So I see part of it, but the level of gynocentrism that is present today is absolutely not necessary from a biological point of view. And feminism tries to use that gynocentrism, and then they leverage victimhood, and they bring in all the other groups who actually might have been victims of society in different ways. And I'm sure historically women also were also victims of society in different ways. But they somehow just exclude men, which is so unfair. Yeah. Because
white cisgender men, basically.
Right.
And sometimes black men too, but you can throw black men under the umbrella.
You can, because they're like, okay, black men, y'all okay, y'all can, you know. But the thing is, it's like, if women are victims of society, then men are as well. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that women are not victims of society. Of course, there are ways in which women are. But then men are as well.
Yeah. You can't escape that.
You can't escape
Patriarchy hurts men too is so condescending because, like, it devastates men. If it exists,
it devastates men. It hurts men more. It hurts men more. And then you turn around and say that they are responsible for it.
Yes, which is victim blaming.
Which is victim blaming. I know. So you are like blaming the ultimate victims of the whole thing. And it's like, really? You know? Yeah.
It's insanity, and that's what drives me so nuts, and that's why I decided to like not hide my face, because I was like, this is just stupid. It's been running our culture, our first world culture anyway, for way too long, and it just
it's pretty much won. I don't even see a road back to anything sane.
No,
No, it's
Yeah,
one.
it's one.
And I'm like,
Definitely.
these women keep saying this is equality, we want equality, we want equality, equality, equality. Let's use the word equality, right? And it's like, I'm sorry, but women are not gonna give men equality.
Mm-mm.
Because at the end of the day, women can always use biology and different things to claim victimhood. Even without anything else, women can always claim victimhood as a group.
Yeah.
We can
Well,
always say, oh my God, we bleed for 7 days a month. Are you bleeding for
yeah.
7 days a month? Oh my God,
Yeah.
the hormones, they're changing all the time. So, and this is nature. We are going to claim that victimhood.
Yeah. Because it's kind of what we have to work with if you don't have 40% higher upper body strength and you are responsible for like having babies, you
Right.
have to find
And
subversive
worse, if
ways
you
to protect
want,
yourself.
exactly, and if you want a society that's going to continue, which means you want children from women, then of course that it becomes even more pronounced, right? Which I don't actually have a problem with, to be honest. If women are going to claim that victimhood, it's fine, I guess. But at the same time, if you're going to do that, you have to be honest about what what the reality of our situation is. You cannot
Yeah.
pretend that you are the only victim, that men are not being crushed by societal norms, that you understand?
Yeah.
And you can't confuse people with the it's too complicated. They've made it so, it's very complicated what feminists want. Of course, they don't even know.
There's a lot of language that you're supposed to use as well, and there's a lot of language you're not supposed to use.
Yeah,
It's very
but it's
like,
a big group, so
this
they
is the
don't all
list of
agree.
words that are acceptable. This is the list of words that make you a bad person. If you
Right.
say those words, you're a bad person. These words are the only acceptable words, and that's why the whole obsession with gender, the whole obsession with the subgroups of people that get tinier and tinier and tinier and tinier. Like, I understand everybody deserves to have an identity, and they deserve to go with that identity, but if you it's like you're choking culture by forcing everybody to follow along with this language that you put out there, and then if you don't use the language, you're immediately tossed onto a pile of like egregious, horrible, disgusting human beings, and that is just too black and white. It doesn't foster debate, it doesn't foster intellectual discussion. If I say, like, my uncle used the word tranny, and my his child who was transgender freaked out and didn't talk to him for like 6 years, but like, he wasn't being anti-trans when he said it. It was the structure of the sentence. He just casually said a word he didn't realize was wrong. And so they put too much emphasis on language, too much emphasis on upholding this very strict linguistic code for the way people should behave. It's very authoritarian, but they will never see that it's authoritarian. So it's just frustrating to be online. I am centrist and libertarian and liberal and kind of all over the place. And just to see the way liberal society functions is scary to me sometimes.
I agree.
And
Liberal society,
a lot of what they have to say has a big kernel of truth in it. Like,
Right.
yeah, transgender people need protections and help and the ability to identify however they want. Yes, lesbian and gay people and bisexual and pansexual people struggle because of their identity. Yes, Black people definitely have been oppressed, and we deal with systemic racism. Like, all of this stuff is true. But the way that they go about talking about it and proportioning people's purity and goodness based on their race and gender and how they fit into this structure is so frustrating. And it just makes it hard to talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah, I agree.